Namaskar viewers, hello and welcome to Sansad TV. I am Tina Jha, you're watching Perspective. Afghanistan's Foreign Minister Amir Khan Muttaqi has arrived in India, marking the first visit by a top Taliban leader since the group's return to power in 2021, following the withdrawal of US forces. Now, during his 6-day visit, Minister Muttaqi is expected to hold wide-ranging discussions with External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar and also the National Security Advisor Mr. Ajit Doval, focusing on strengthening bilateral engagement and regional stability. The two ministers had earlier spoken when India announced humanitarian assistance for Afghanistan in the aftermath of the recent devastating earthquake. While New Delhi has not formally recognized the Taliban government, India has continued to maintain constructive engagement, extending humanitarian aid, development assistance, and also sheltering thousands of Afghan refugees since 2021. So this visit also comes just days after India joined Russia, China, and 7 other countries in opposing any foreign military presence in Afghanistan amid renewed discussions around the strategic Bagram airbase. So on the show today, we'll delve deeper into the timing, the context and the significance of Afghan Foreign Minister's India visit and what it could mean for India-Afghanistan relations as well as the regional dynamics. Joining us with their perspectives are two distinguished guests, former Ambassador D.P. Srivastav. He's a distinguished fellow at the VIF. Ambassador, thank you for your time. Welcome to Sansad TV. I'm also delighted to welcome Dr. Anshu Joshi, Professor of International Relations, School of International Studies, JNU. Professor, glad to have you with us on this telecast. Welcome to the program. So, Ambassador, let's begin the conversation with you. How do you view the significance of this visit by the Afghanistan's Foreign Minister to India, especially in context of New Delhi not recognizing the Taliban government so far, but engaging through humanitarian aid and developmental projects? So, all in all, how do you see and explain this sort of delicate balancing act that is evolving between New Delhi and Kabul?
Well, you have to see India's relations with Afghanistan in historical perspective. India has had close relations with that country since independence. Afghanistan was the only country which voted against Pakistan's admission to United Nations. And currently, Afghanistan is going through a very difficult relationship with Pakistan. We are facing the same challenge, and so are other neighbors of Pakistan. So there's a commonality of interests here. Taliban's position has also evolved over the years since they joined, since they came to power. And we have, though so far we have not formally recognized them, but we allowed them to open an office in Bombay. We have continued humanitarian assistance. India invested in Chabahar port, which I had the privilege of being associated with negotiations. I was ambassador to Iran, and I was given extension to complete the negotiations. So we have invested a lot. Now, you have to also see that other regional countries have moved towards normalization of relations with Afghanistan, and this includes both Russia and China, who have opened, Russia has established diplomatic relations. And recently in Moscow conference, India along with Russia and China opposed establishment of foreign military infrastructure, reference to President Trump's call to re-establish its base in Bagram airfield near Kabul. Right. So there's we have a lot going on there, and I think this visit is very timely for both Afghanistan and India.
Okay, so we will come to the agenda and the expected outcomes. But Professor Joshi, as a professor of international relations, do you see this visit indicating more of a gradual shift in India's policy? So initially what started with cautious engagement, we are now moving towards a more structured dialogue with Kabul, and especially in context of both sides trying to counterbalance Pakistan and China?
Indeed, Tina ji, this is a very significant question as well as a point. You look at this visit of Muttaqi's visit to India. The timing is very, very important, as in current situation, it's a strategic necessity for both India and Afghanistan to extend the positive engagement between the two nations. As in, this is the time when we can see that countries like Pakistan and US are playing the realist game on the turf of global politics. And to secure our national interests, it is actually necessary at this time to engage with a country like Afghanistan, with whom we have had very long civilizational connects and good relations for years since India's independence. For strategic significance, I would like to share 3 or 4 points here. And there is an economic importance also that we can discuss later. But to answer your question, we should see that from India's point of view, you see the present situation when Pakistan and US have re-engaged and are shaking the hands. And this has tilted the power balance not only in South Asian region, but also in Central Asia. And it is also extending its impact on the entire West Asian region. So when we look at the engagement between India and Afghanistan, so far so India, after Taliban took over the government of Afghanistan, India has not formally recognized the Afghani government, but we have allowed them to open their office in Mumbai, and we have also opened our office, our consular office in Kabul. So you see, not only from excesses point of view, as in the kind of land bridge that Afghanistan provides to India to access to energy-rich Central Asian region, it's also crucial for this moment to engage with Afghanistan to ensure our trade and energy security. And it also helps us in bypassing Pakistan, which quite often blocks Indian land access. Then we have to see that what kind of influence can we see in our region. So India's involvement with Afghanistan is a key part of its strategy to counter the increasing influence of Pakistan and China in our region, and Afghanistan as a strong ally or a partner or with India's presence can reduce Pakistan's regional advantage. And from counter-terrorism's point of view also, Tina ji, it is very important. Afghanistan at the moment seems to be vital for our national security, and we should not forget that Muttaqi had, without mincing his words, condemned the Pahalgam attack. So we know that there are terrorist groups that are funded by Pakistan, but they are sitting in Afghanistan at the moment, and they are operating from Afghani soil, but they are a potential threat to our national security. So by increasing our engagement with Afghanistan, it would be helpful for India to share our concerns directly with the present government of Afghanistan, and it would help us in fighting this entire battle against terrorism in a more effective manner. Last but not the least, when we look at the strategic depth against Pakistan, if we activate this Pakistan-Afghani border, it would help us in decreasing Pakistan's influence to concentrate all its forces on our Indian borders. So this is another very significant strategic point. So at the moment, for Afghanistan also, it's very important to engage with India, because we should not forget that Muttaqi has come to India via Moscow. He has recently attended a dialogue focused on Afghanistan in Russia, and then he has come to Indian soil. And so far, so Russia is the only country in the world that has formally acknowledged and recognized this Talibani government in Afghanistan. So Afghanistan also wants to now, and present government also wants to diplomatically engage with other nations to secure its national interests, including its strategic interests, its economic interests, and its cultural interests also. And there India has made it very clear that it's not going to tolerate any kind of engagement, diplomatic relations with terrorist activities onto Afghani soil. So there India has also made it very clear. So we are not tilting from our policy, Tina ji, but we are shifting our goalposts at the moment, considering the present situation, not only in global politics, but also in our region.
Clearly, and in the last 4 years, it was 2021 when the Taliban returned to power. That's when we had shut down our missions. That's when we had stopped engaging with the Talibani government. But in the last 4 years, both the regional geopolitics as well as the global geopolitics have changed multifold. Ambassador, of course, and given that in terms of regional diplomacy, in terms of how we engage with Afghanistan to counter terrorism, to counterbalance Pakistan and China and their growing partnership, we need Kabul to be on our side. But before we get into the specifics on how we can see possible contours of deepening engagement in the areas of trade, also connectivity and counterterrorism, there is one dilemma that New Delhi has been facing. So our Foreign Secretary, Mr. Vikram Misri, met the Afghan Foreign Minister in Dubai. But because we've not officially recognized the Taliban regime, we've also not recognized their flag. So when, the Afghani foreign minister is now in India, when they meet, what is going to be our, stance, especially in terms of displaying the flag? But also to add to that, from a diplomatic standpoint, if you could also explain to us, how do we navigate the dilemma of deepening cooperation with a regime that we have not officially recognized? Do you see this visit changing any of that?
I think the change has already taken place. And, I mentioned that we allowed them to open office in Bombay. We have gone along with the consensus and Moscow format meeting, along with Russia and China, being received by External Affairs Minister in the national capital. This itself is an index of, or indication of recognition being accorded to that government, even though a formal step is yet to be taken, but that is simply, there's a logical progression. And I might add 2 points here. It's a complex relationship, and we have to move step by step. We are countering Pakistan is certainly an objective. The threat to both countries, Afghanistan and India, comes from Pakistan. But we should not jump to any conclusion. Afghanistan also has very good relations with China.
Right.
And in fact, it has joined CPEC. There was a meeting in Beijing where both Afghanistan and Pakistan participated. So we need not presume upon Afghanistan's foreign policy orientation. We should look at strengthening bilateral relations with that country, which is in keeping with our historical position and also demanded by the current situation. Now, the second point I would like to make is that Afghanistan brings out the contradiction in Pakistan's policies. So, its policy is running with the hare and hunting with the hound. So, Asim Munir has made 3 visits to US, and Mr. Shahbaz Sharif also recently went and was received in the White House. So on one hand, they are supporting US policies, and mind you, these are not US policies in some distant theater. These are US policies in our region. The visit of Asim Munir to White House on 15th June, coinciding with Israel's attack on Iran. So there was the Iran factor. Pakistan was also given $1.5 billion of IMF assistance during Operation Sindoor. IMF is controlled by Americans. So there has been some quid pro quo with the Americans. There's some deal, and Pakistan is being bailed out for services rendered. So on one hand, Pakistan is going along with the American policy against Iran, though it doesn't want to admit it, which it will have explosive consequences domestically for Pakistan government and the army chief himself. On the other hand, it is has gone along with the Moscow declaration, which has opposed creation of foreign military infrastructure in Afghanistan, a reference to President Trump's demand that there should be allowed presence in Bagram, allegedly for targeting China and China's nuclear arsenal, where Trump said that, their nuclear weapons are being, developed in Central Asia. They are not being produced in Xinjiang, but yes, that's one of the lock node is a testing range. But there's a contradiction in American policy also, because they have moved towards G2, normalization of relations with China, after, huge talk of tariff war and so on. They have not targeted China for buying oil for Russia. They have targeted us. So it's a complex game. Let's hope that this visit results in strengthening our historical relations with Afghanistan. And in this equation, it's very clear that Afghanistan needs India more than we do. We have long-term interests. They have immediate needs for humanitarian assistance, for money. And the last point I would like to make is that in this equation, the missing link is Iran, because you can't reach Afghanistan without Iran and Chabahar. And it is, recently President Trump has withdrawn exemption from US sanctions on Chabahar. The objective of US policy may be to put more pressure on Iran, but yes, a collateral damage has been India's Afghan policy also.
And that's why I think this visit, Professor Joshi, is not being watched closely by our neighbor, but also by officials in the Trump administration, also perhaps in Beijing. What message do you think this visit of the Afghanistan foreign minister, and for which a temporary waiver had to be given by the UN Security Council, what kind of messaging do you think it giving to all the regional players? For us, of course, there are domestic compulsions and our long-term interests in Afghanistan. But given all of the security situations and interests of the other regional players, what message will this visit send out?
Teenaji, it's a very good question. And again, when we look at the situation around and the flux in the global politics at the present moment, every player involved in this, on this turf of global politics wants to secure its national interests first. And in that light, it was interesting to see that how Muttaqi, who was on the list of United Nations Security Council, as in he was banned from any kind of travel since 2001, the ban was lifted when he presented his plan to travel to India. So for this particular traveling, the ban was lifted by United Nations Security Council. So we should take this entire thing with a pinch of salt, that right now it's kind of a realist world, wherein apart from the kind of elements we used to consider from a neoliberal world's point of view, as in the economic power of a nation, at the moment, every country wants to secure its national security first. And that is why we can see that bilaterally and multilaterally, there is a situation of complex interdependence, a world of complex interdependence into which we are living. So this visit is a clear-cut message to the entire world that every nation executes its foreign policy, keeping its national interests on the topmost priority. That is the reason, considering US and Pakistan shaking hands with each other, India is also welcoming Afghani foreign minister onto its soil with like a list of agenda, from strategic agreements to economic agreements to different, aid programs that India is already running in Afghanistan. Right. So as the ambassador has said, I also agree that more than India needs Afghanistan, at the moment, tactically Afghanistan's needs to secure India's engagement is more than what India needs from Afghanistan. However, we should also not forget that India has invested billions of dollars in Afghanistan for its reconstruction, different projects, as in we have taken major projects like construction of Afghani parliament, this very famous Salma Dam, which is a reflection of Afghanistan-India friendship and its civilizational relationship. And these projects not only support Afghanistan, but also solidify India's influence in Afghanistan, if we see. And then we should also look at our investment in Iran's Chabahar port, which provides an alternative sea-land route for trade with Afghanistan and Central Asia. So here also this element of trade and connectivity comes into the picture, wherein both Afghanistan and India would like to overpass or surpass Pakistan by developing this particular, land corridor. And then last but not the least, there are untapped natural resources that Afghanistan has. So as in, there are different articles and reports that estimate that Afghanistan has reserves of critical minerals and untapped natural resources ranging from 1 to 3 trillion USD. So this actually also presents a window of opportunity for long-term engagement between the nations. However, again, considering the nature of the present government, India is engaging with Afghanistan with a caution, but again, to secure its national interests and ensure its national security. This visit is very, very important and gives a strong message to the whole world that if other countries are playing the game of realism or considering this realistic definition of power onto the turf, India is diplomatically playing this game and securing its national interests, because aggression and attacking somebody or playing with the help of proxies is not what India does. Our foreign policy never believes in all these kind of elements. So that is why India is trying to engage constructively with a country like Afghanistan and vice versa.
Okay, so Ambassador, with the hope that India's position on humanitarian and developmental assistance that we have followed after 2021, this could serve as a bridge for, say, broader diplomatic engagement in the future with Afghanistan. But do you also believe that this could further help us in balancing our outreach to the Taliban with its continued support, of course, for a more inclusive political process within the country?
May I just mention, we have recently had Prime Minister's visit to China. China has no democracy. And for 70 years, despite Pakistan's history of hostility with India, we maintain some diplomatic relations with that country. There's neither democracy nor inclusivity. So let's keep the state-to-state relations separate from domestic politics. Mm-hmm. And let's also bear in mind the historical context. I remember as a child, I saw Kabuliwala, that very famous, that movie based on Tagore's story. So we have those relations. And the most interesting part, which is now being played out between Pakistan and Afghanistan, is what is going on in NWFP Pakistan, and renamed it as Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. And this is this revolves around the issue of Pashtun nationalism, which Pakistan tried to appropriate, though it has actually suppressed Pashtun nationalism on its side of the Durand line. Afghanistan also has a claim to it. Pashtuns, there's a large majority. They are not the majority, but they are the largest ethnic group in Afghanistan. So there's a lot going on, and we should not allow, some of these considerations. We support democracy, and we are a plural society, but we cannot dictate how other countries shape their domestic regime.
Absolutely. So let's hope that this visit provides the opportunity to both countries to explore areas of mutual benefit and perhaps expand it to broader areas of trade, connectivity, and most importantly, counter-terrorism. With that, we'll have to wrap up the conversation. Thank you once again, Professor Joshi and Ambassador, for joining us on the program today, sharing your thoughts with us and our viewers. To you viewers, thank you very much for your time as well.
To watch more programs of Sansad TV, subscribe to our YouTube channel and don't forget to like and share them.